This little video is going to walk you through the Orbis Sensualium Pictus, its structure. This is a book written by John Amos Comenius to teach 7-year-olds Latin, and the goal was to give his students, over a period of a few months, a working vocabulary so that they could start to learn a wide variety of Latin texts. This is their first text, the introductory school book, and it's structured in a very specific way. Here we begin with the earth itself, tellus, and the various parts of it, followed by terra. And after this, the plant kingdom, botanica. After we've dealt with botanica, we have Animalia, the animal kingdom. First of all, aves, the birds. Then quadrupeda, those things that walk on 4 feet. Serpentes et reptilia. Insecta, which is separated out from those that fly, which are categorized underneath the birds. And pisces, fishes. And that's the end of the lower animals, and then we have homo, man, and various physical matters to do with man. And the rest of the book essentially is about mankind and his endeavors. The first section that Comenius deals with is labor Adami. And as you can see, this is a very large section which outlines all the various trades that were in use in the 1700s. And of course, many of these trades were used in the time of the Romans too. And much of the vocabulary you will find in Virgil and as you're reading Roman texts, etc. So it doesn't only apply to the 17th century. Domus, the house, and partes domus, the parts of the house. The next division is artes hominis, the arts of man, and you can see that these are mainly to do with books, medicine, and a selection of arts such as watchmaking, painting, making mirrors, and sailing. Then we get to the life of the mind, philosophia, and this includes education, study, the arts of speech, music, philosophy, geometry, and then the breakdown of society itself, reward and punishment, burial, and then sports, palestra, ludus pilae, ludus aliae, and various things. Quite a large section is given over to sport in the curriculum. Comenius thought that sport was extremely important as part of the structure of the educational curriculum. Probably one of the very first people to formalize this and write about it in terms of educational philosophy. And then we have the final section of the book, religion, where he goes through the main religions known to him in the Western world, right, which is paganism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and then a final section on providence and the Last Judgment, and the clausula, the little ending chapter. So this is the visible world in pictures of John Amos Comenius. From the time it was printed, this is the first illustrated children's book ever written. It remained in print right through to the 1800s, and new editions were being put out even as late as the very end of the 1800s. Updated editions of this book were still being written and published. The Great thing about the Orbis Sensualium Pictus is if you look on Google or on europeana.eu, you will find a large number of versions with 2 columns of text, one Latin and one another language, and just about every single language in Europe, even very small minority languages, are covered. So you will find a version, if you're living in Europe, in your own language. And what you can do, if you wish to get correct quantity while you are studying this, is you can download the audio file from latinum.org.uk, which is available either in the bilingual version, which is several hours long, or the Latin-only version, which is either for review or for listening to while you scan your eye over the parallel translation in whichever text you have chosen to use. This is one of the most important educational texts for Latin education ever written, and if you haven't studied it and memorized it, I highly advise it, especially if you intend to delve into post-Roman literature. And you have to remember, of course, that most of what's written in Latin was written after the time of the Romans. Huge amounts of it are now accessible, more and more every year. From your computer, you have more access to texts written in Latin in the Renaissance and the late medieval period than even the most advanced researcher had in the time before Google started to scan the world's books, meaning that each of us is empowered, and this literature is now available. And if you start looking for Latin books on Google, you will stumble across texts that no one has read for 200 years. You will stumble across books that Google has scanned, and you won't find them even catalogued anywhere. And in fact, there are projects in place in various European countries to catalogue the Latin literature of each nation, because this is an area that was very greatly neglected. So there we have it, the Orbis Sensualium Pictus of John Amos Comenius, one of the world's great men.